Namaste and welcome to Book Talk with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra on our channel, Veterinary University and Auroveda on YouTube. So, Dr. Chopra, before we delve into your wonderful book on Shastri, please hold the book up if you don't mind. The Great Conciliator, Lal Bahadur Shastri and the Transformation of India. Congratulations once again on this brilliant book. You've
Thank
been
you.
a member of the coveted Indian Administrative Service, and you've retired at the pinnacle of, should I say, Babudam as the director of as the director of Labasna, where you shaped the minds of the people just entering
Not
service.
the Babus. Look, Babu is not one of the best words that you use for us.
I know,
And,
but
and
I
you should
want to,
accept
I
that.
want to, I
And
wanted
you
to bring in
know
a
that.
touch of humor, but
But
with the greatest respect for you
on
as a
a, but
scholar administrator.
on a more serious note, Babu is a person who has a superficial knowledge of the English language.
No, that's from Hobson Jobson, and you are certainly an exception. In fact, that's why I wanted to start on your own intellectual growth and development. Take us back to your student days, your time in JNU, and I know you've been a voracious reader, so you're more in the tradition, as it were, of the British administrator scholar, the great, ICS officers, and even prior to them who produced fantastic gazetteers, not to be improved even today. And people like Grierson and William Jones, who spend their spare time in, reading and writing. So anyhow, I said it with the greatest respect. In fact, to
No,
viewers, I wanted to add that, when I used to be invited to Labasna, thanks to you, your desk was full of books and you actually made your probationers read books, critique books, discuss books, and debate books, among them my own. So please tell us about your own intellectual growth and how you became an author at a fairly, should I say, mature age, but the books are superb.
Thank you, Makran. I think I've always enjoyed reading. I've always enjoyed reading. I mean, left to myself, I would have either been a journalist or I would have been the academia. But like all the great Indian middle class, there's only one aspiration. That is that the son must crack the civil services exam. And I was comfortably working with the Economic Times after having been through the Times of India training school and doing lead articles for the Economic Times by 22, 23. I took them home to my father. He says, "ये क्या है? ये तो कोई भी लिख लेता है. अगर दम है तो ये, you crack this exam and show me that you can do it." I said, "Do you think I can't do it?" He said, "सब बोलते हैं, but you do it and show me that you can do it, and then you can leave it." So, what is an interesting challenge? My dad, being my dad, he really sort of gave me that very, very nice challenge. कि करके दिखाओ. So I said, I'm working in the Economic Times. He says, how much are you getting? I told him I'm getting 1160 rupees, which is what we used to get in 1982, 83. That's what the salary was. He says, okay, you take 6 months leave without pay and I'll give you exactly this money and you work for me. And your work, my work, that is my dad's work for me, is that I should study and I should spend, as much. I mean, I should put in my best effort to crack the exam. So that was it. so,
Challenge.
so challenge. But I mean, I would have always preferred to be an academic. But fortunately, for me, a lot of my postings where I spent 7 years in the academy. And in those 7 years in the academy, after my first posting in the district, where also I did not give up reading because opportunities were such, you see, because one thing I realized that in my first posting in Kalimpong, where we were having this
You got
DNL.
the Bengal cadre. Why did you choose Bengal?
No, we didn't choose any cadres. From 1985, the option of choosing a cadre had been taken away from us, and we were all put in a roster. So I could have got. I wouldn't have got my home state, but I would have got a neighboring state. But I think it's a good decision. I mean, you should get people across working in wherever you want to work. So while working in so in fact, that's how the journey of books start. The first posting to Purulia. I never heard of Purulia. So when I heard
Arms
of
drop.
Purulia,
The arms drop.
that came in much later. My poor batchmate got shunted out because of that. There was nothing here to do for it. But so you start reading gazetteers, you start reading. I read Tropic of Cancer because Purulia, there was a Tropic of Cancer passing through it. So you read about, you read about the history of the place. Now Purulia was part of the old Malbhum district. So then one realized that it was part of that area which which Raja Man Singh had captured. Bir Man Singh had captured that area. Now, you see, Bir Man Singh had already reached the epic scale in the Mughal hierarchy. He was already getting the cabinet secretary's pay. So there's nothing that they could have done. I mean, the Mansabdari and the highest position had been given. The rest was reserved for Salim and the others, the members of the royalty. So what could be done to give him that honor? So that entire area which he captured was named Bir Man Singh. That is Birbhum,
Dear
Manbhum,
home.
and Singhbhum.
Oh,
So
wow.
this entire area was named after Bir Man Singh as a honor to this great soldier of India, to this great general of India, who is a controversy about whether, because he did collaborate with Akbar, but he was a
But
great general all the
yeah.
same, right? He was a great soldier and a great administrator, one of the Navaratans of Akbar. So that's how you start. I've always felt that wherever you are, if you keep your eyes and ears open, then you get a lot of stories, you get a lot of information, you get to understand a lot, and then it's always very good in conversation because when you're sitting in conversation in the evening with some senior officer, some general or something, you tell them the history of the. I mean, otherwise, sometimes people are so blank about why they are where they are. You should know where you are and why you are there. So that's how I started reading gazetteers, and I started reading about how this Singhbhum and Birbhum and two of these are and part of Purulia was in Bihar actually, because part of it was, but it was a Bengali speaking area. So then after reorganization it came here. I was posted to Kalimpong. There I came across this book, The Road to Destiny. How Kalimpong, how Darjeeling, and then in Kalimpong one came across Kazi Lendup Durji, the ex chief minister of first chief minister of Sikkim, Major Hamilton, and all these people. So Kalimpong, as you know, was called the nest of spice. So there's a lot of literature on Kalimpong because that was the last outpost. So I read a lot about Bhutan, read a lot about Sikkim, and these were insurgency days. So you were
Yes.
either out enforcing law and order, and you also had time, and there was a lot of people at the army that we were interacting with. So this thing of reading and researching about the place where you are posted, that has always been there. When I was in Khatal, I produced something called the Khatal Yearbook, which captured the history of Khatal because Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was from Khatal. So one realized that that is the place where one could be. Kuch Bihar, when I was posted there in Kuch Bihar, again a phenomenal place, and it was in Kuch Bihar that the Teen Bigha the Teen
The
Bigha
mean,
transfer had
the,
taken
yeah,
place.
yeah.
So again, because I was fond of reading and writing, the commissioner and the DC, they said, you write the white paper on Teen Bigha. So what happens is that sometimes you are impelled, you because you are interested, your seniors also try to give you those roles. Something going to happen, so they all let you do it. So that is what happens. So when you are in the agriculture ministry, for example, the secretary wanted a whole documentation on agriculture. We called it vignettes on Indian life. So he said, "Why don't you do it?" So what happens is that because you are interested, you also get a lot of opportunities. Then, of course, Murshidabad, I really didn't have the time because as district magistrate, you do not get the time to read and write. But still, one did read up about Murshidabad, about the past of Murshidabad. I mean, the Jagan, the Hazar Duari Palace. So part of it happens. Part of it happens because you're reading so much and you're getting a lot of material. And then, of course, I came to the academy, and in the academy, 7 years, 95 to 2002 was actually a time when I got to read a lot, when I got to write a lot. I got my two fellowships. I got the fellowship with the World Bank. I got a fellowship at Cornell. Of course, those days my writings and readings are mostly on agribusiness policy, but the writing continues. So I had to do my papers at Cornell. I did 2 or 3 papers there. some papers at, a document for the World Bank, but that exposes you to a different world. I mean, that teaches you the art of reading and writing. And let me be candid, Makran, I was not a very serious student in JNU. I was more involved in the politics of
Politics.
JNU, and I did not take it. I mean, I was a B plus
You,
or an A minus student, and
you
not
were arrested once, if I'm not mistaken,
no,
along with
I,
several
I,
other.
I courted arrest. There's a difference between being arrested and courting arrest.
With
I was not.
DP Singh and all the, yeah, with Sitaram Yechuri,
No,
DP Singh.
no, they were all they're all much senior to me. I'm not
Okay,
that ancient,
okay,
I'm
okay.
much younger than them. No, but so what I would say is that the tradition of scholarship. I mean, the time that I was in serious studies, one is for the civil services. That really is a because other things apart, you have to really enjoy reading if you have to crack civil services. I mean, you have to really enjoy it. And remember, those were the days when there were no guidebooks, no notes
Yes.
available. You couldn't, sign up for
No
a coaching.
coaching classes, no
No
coaching
coaching
classes.
class. So I had to make our own
When
notes.
did you start collecting maps? And when did you
Maps,
get
I told maps, I've told you
yeah,
my
you can
fascination.
hold up your earlier book as well, please.
Yeah, I know.
On
I'll tell you about the story of map, but let me continue. So, this 7 year
but just
phase.
show the book. Just show the book so that yeah, yeah, we the people of the states of Bharat. So this is about the reorganization
Of
of
India states.
the states of Bharat by looking at the maps. So we'll talk about this book at another time. But tell us about your journey
Okay.
with
So
yeah,
then you see, I started, I mean, I was very keen on agricultural policy, cooperative. So we organized some SARC consultations on cooperative policy. I was invited to give keynotes on cooperatives and agricultural policy, Ho Chi Minh City and Beijing. And so a lot of international conferencing took place because of agribusiness and agri policy. And then also because I had to write a lot of speeches for the Chief Minister, N.D. Tiwari. And N.D. Tiwari, even when he became governor of Andhra Pradesh, he would, call me and say, and he would call me Sanjay ji for some reason. He'd say, Sanjay ji, वो इस पे लिखिए, इस पे भेज दीजिए आज मुझे. और ये किताबें पढ़िए. And he would give me a lot of books to read because he got a lot of books. He would give me a lot of books to read and says, शाम को इस पे हमने भाषण देना है. And he would want to talk on eclectic subjects. He'd talk on Pakistan. He'd talk on China. So being his sort of speech writer, so you read a lot. Actually, when you write speeches, you learn a lot. And that aspect of writing speeches. I mean, so one got into the habit of writing speeches after reading a lot. So I did some books on agriculture and cooperative policy, and then I started writing for my local newspaper a column called Agri Matters. So every week on how to look at how agricultural policy is shaping up. And then sometimes, Economic Times would tell me to write a column or Financial Express. Some newspapers would give me books to review. So I would review those books. So that's how, the continuity and the process was on. And from 2013-14, we started something called Books and Authors at the CSY. You would take up one book with of a civil servant or on civil services and do it. And then, of course, back to Calcutta, where again I was after a little tiff with our honorable CM, I was again posted as the Director General of the ATI, which again meant that I had a lot of time to read and write. And then last 3 years in the academy. So all throughout,
but you also picked up a PhD on the way. Tell us a little bit about that.
yes. So my PhD was on agribusiness management, and then because in those days, remember SAFTA and SAPTA, the South Asian Free Trade Agreement. I mean, we had signed the SAFTA, the South Asian Preferential Trade Agreement, and it had to lead to the SAFTA. So my thesis was that just as the European Union had come together with the common market on coal and steel and then agriculture. So my discussions with my because I'd done these SARC consultations on cooperative policy. Remember till 1999 before the Kargil, relations between India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal were on an even keel. And in fact, the relationships and friendships were improving. And SARC also looked like a real possibility. So there was, the Ministry of External Affairs was supporting a lot of SARC
Yeah,
initiatives. And we did
that's how we had a university. We still have a
SARC.
university.
So we had four SARC consultations on cooperative policy, which I anchored at the academy. So one talk to
But where
my
did you do the PhD, and did you get time off, or you did it
No, no, I know,
simultaneously?
I know. I took some time off, but because I was so you had to do all these because look, those days you didn't have the research papers and this was not there. My guide, Dr. P.N. Mishra, was teaching me, was my teacher, was my tutor and mentor at the Management Development Institute at Gurgaon,
Gurgaon.
where I was sent for my second national management program from the government. It was maybe a kahani hai. That story is that, you see, after the GNLF agitation was over, Gishing wanted all of us out of that district. So the government felt
Subhash
like,
Singh, Subhash Singh,
so he
the
said, all
Gurkha
right, I
land
mean, part of
agitation.
the political compromises, all of us were thrown out of Kalimpong, my favorite place. But in the process, I applied for this national management program, was selected. So I came to Gurgaon. And there, my mentor and guide, Dr. P.N. Mishra, he told me that, and he saw my academic interest and he told me to register for a PhD. By which time he had moved to the Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya in Indore. So I transferred my PhD with him, and it took me about 6 years, 5 or 6 years, longer than what would normally take. But I managed to complete my document in this period. So it was on SAFTA, and finally the WTO, agricultural, and how agribusinesses would respond, how agriculture would respond. But in fact, just before the Kargil war, I'd been invited to address the India-Pakistan Parliamentary Conference on agriculture. But the Kargil took place, and after that, it has never been the same again.
Well, fantastic. On that note, we will bring this episode to a close, but do join us for the next episode on this wonderful book with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you, Dr. Chopra, joining us today, and see you soon.
Thank you.